Hello my fellow weirdos, my name's Marie McWilliams, welcome back to my channel. For today's video I'm going to be doing my top 10 final girls. So guys, if you're unfamiliar with the idea of the final girl, first of all, are you living under a rock and what's wrong with you? Second of all, final girl is exactly what it says on the tin. She is often the sole survivor, sometimes one of the only survivors left of whatever horror movie we happen to be watching at the time. And while some of them get by dumb luck, a lot of them are kind of set apart from the other survivors, if there are any, and the other victims, because they are pretty badass and they refuse to go down without a fight. So the final girl, usually somebody quite innocent and naive and vulnerable, and kind of proves herself worthy of survival at the end. And she is quite the final girl. So what I have done is made a list of my 10 favourite final girls. Let me know what you think, if you agree with me or not. So I'm just going to launch straight into it. Number 10, we have Julie James in I Know What You Did Last Summer. Now, this little collection of movies takes me back to my young tween days when I wasn't old enough to go in to see these movies, but that didn't stop me. Julie James, played by the fabulous Jennifer Love Hewitt, her and her friends, after a drunken accident, they hit someone, they realize he's dead, and rather than kind of face any consequences to that, they decide that their lives are, you know, too important, and they just shove that guy's body right in the water. But then he comes back and he starts killing them, or at least they think it's him. After a lot of stabby stabs, she comes out one of the only survivors, her and her boyfriend, played by Freddie Prinze Jr. I love this film. She's pretty good. She definitely fights her way to the end. Not as much as some of the other people on the list, which is why she's a little bit further down, but a worthy final girl nonetheless. Number 9, we have Sally Hardesty from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Not the terrible remake, the original. Now, she has to be one of the first of the final girls and definitely deserves a place on this list just for that sheer fact. Whilst she kind of survives mostly by dumb luck, she does keep running and keep going and get the hell out of there. So, you know, we have to give her status. She doesn't get killed. She is our final girl. And she's pretty damn good at it. If you're unfamiliar with this particular story, again, guys, where have you been living? Essentially, funnily enough, takes place in Texas, where a group of unsuspecting teens, it's always a group of unsuspecting teens, they end up running into a family of psychotic, cannibalistic murderers. Leatherface being one of the most iconic, who makes things out of human skin, including a mask that he wears. It's all patched together from human skin. It's very disturbing. And obviously they pick her friends off one by one, leaving her this time as the sole survivor. Great movie. Don't watch the remake. Watch the original, okay? Most of these, there's only one exception on my list. Watch the original. Although always watch the original, but don't watch the remake at all for that. I'm going off on a tangent here. Number 8, we have Alice Hardy from Friday the 13th. Again, we're talking about the 1980 original classic here, not that awful remake with the guy from Paranormal. No. She, again, is a pretty decent fighter and manages to be the sole survivor of the terrible, terrible disaster that underwent the camp counselors at, what is it, Camp Crystal Lake? Camp Crystal Lake. So again, if you guys are unfamiliar, these are all classics, people. If you haven't seen these horror films, then get on it, is all I'm saying. So essentially she becomes a camp counselor at Camp Crystal Lake, and her other counselors start getting picked off one by one in various gruesome ways by a masked killer we all know as Jason Voorhees. Except it turns out it's not him, it's his mother. The ending of this gets a particular kudos because it has always scared the crap out of me, even when I know it's coming, because it ends with her exhausted in a paddle boat in the middle of the lake. She's killed the bad guy. She's the only survivor. And then, like, Jason's rotting corpse comes out of the lake and grabs her, which is obviously just a bad dream, but it's a great moment, a great ending. She doesn't make it in the sequel, unfortunately, but she did pretty well in the original, so we got to give her status as a final girl. At number 7, we have Dana Polk at Cabin in the Woods. Now, Cabin in the Woods, guys, I've made a video about my favourite horror comedies, and it's one of my favourite all time. I'll put the link to that video down below, but it is wonderful for its meta value. It's breaking the fourth wall. Essentially, we have a group of teenagers, again, going to a remote cabin in the woods for a holiday. Again, of course, why else would they? Where else would you go for a holiday? You're not going to go to a hotel, a posh hotel in Spain or something. Nope, you're going to go to that abandoned, creepy summer camp or the little cabin in the woods. Anyway, and they start acting strangely and getting picked off one by one, and it turns out that things are just not as they seem. Kudos to Dana for me for, she's got a corset on her at the end. She has to make a choice. She makes one, which is probably the right one, but then it kind of, yeah, you have to watch it to see it. But she is definitely a fighter and one of the only survivors of this particular movie. I really like her. It's a fantastic film. Please watch it immediately. Next up, we have Mia Allen from Unusually the Evil Dead remake in 2013. Now, guys, I am a huge Evil Dead fan, okay? You know, Evil Dead, Sam Raimi's original movies are fantastic, and I will always, always, always love those iconic movies starring our beautiful Bruce Campbell with his little sexy bum chin as Ash, our protagonist. When I heard that, is it Fede Alvarez was remaking this, I was not happy. Because as you've maybe been able to tell from this list so far, I'm not a massive fan of horror remakes. They tend to take a lot of what was original and juicy and wonderful about it and just make it into sort of a kind of commercial, like, blow by blow. They substitute actual scares and genuine build-up for just cheap gore and jumping out at you, and it just doesn't do it for me a lot of the time. Also, the teenagers in them never look like teenagers. They always look about 35 years old. So, yeah, I was dubious of this, especially because Evil Dead it holds such a special place in my heart. But this remake was fantastic, and I really enjoyed it. One of the key choices and changes that he made was to take Ash's protagonist character and make him a girl, which is our final girl, Mia Allen. And that decision, I think, worked really well. Now, I know that Mia spends half the movie pretty much possessed and in with one of the bad guys. She gets violated by a tree pretty early on and becomes a possessed demon. But she comes back tenfold in the end and kicks demon butt. One of my favorite parts is after having a car crush her hand, she, basically just rips it off, sticks her chainsaw on there, and when the Deadite taunts her by saying, "I will feast on your soul," she says, "Feast on this mother effer," and then just gives him right up in his face the chainsaw. It's a wonderful moment. She is a very worthy final girl, and you'll see that as we go further down the list here, and closer to number 1, my final girls are really, truly getting more and more badass. At number 5, speaking of badass, we have Erin Harson from You're Next. You're Next was one of those surprise, fantastic horror movies. I loved it. I wasn't expecting to. When I saw the posters and stuff, I wasn't really overly drawn to it, but it is a fantastic movie. I thought that it was going to be another one of those kind of, similar to The Strangers, again, people in remote location getting picked off by crazy psychos. But no, this takes it and really takes it in a different direction, because our final girl, Erin Harson, is a frickin' badass. They really took on the wrong person here with this particular one. She was raised in a survivalist camp by her father in Australia, and she knows how to basically hunt and build fires and to kick ass. Unaware, her boyfriend and these guys are unaware, but anyway, she comes to meet her boyfriend's family for the first time, and the family start getting picked off one by one, and she proves herself incredibly worthy, shows her skills, and just destroys them. She's wonderful. At number 4, we have Sidney Prescott from Scream. Now, guys, Scream, it's like my favorite horror movie of all time. I remember I bought the VHS. Yes, I am that old. From a bargain bin in my local video shop. It was £1. And me and my sister played that movie until the VHS literally wouldn't play anymore. We broke it. We broke it with our love. It is a freaking awesome slasher movie, which took the traditional genre and again went all meta and fourth wall, because they're constantly referencing the patterns and the final girl trope and all the various tropes from horror movies are referenced in the movie even as they play out in front of you. It is just movie lover perfection. Sidney, she's pretty good. She's a fighter. She doesn't want to go down without a fight, and even in all the other subsequent Screams, she kicks ass. So you've got to give her a kudos for that. Number 3, we have Laurie Strode. People deem her to be the original final girl from Halloween. Obviously Jamie Lee Curtis back in the day as a young babysitter, terrorized by a mass killer known as Michael Myers. This movie is amazing, and she, for someone who is very obviously very pure and virginal and a very stereotypical final girl, she kicks a butt and just won't go down without a fight. And again, that follows through in the subsequent sequels. So love our Laurie. Next up, we have Nancy Thompson from A Nightmare on Elm Street. The original, again, please don't mention that terrible, terrible remake. Oh my god, it's so awful. Essentially, this is about a child killery pedophile guy who doesn't get convicted, so the town take it into their own hands and murder him by burning him alive. His name is Freddy Krueger, and he finds a way to come back and terrorize those families by targeting their children in their dreams. And if you die in your dream, you die in real life. Johnny Depp's in it, very, very young, one of his first ever roles. It's worth watching just for his particular demise. But essentially, Nancy is the one who, out of all this list, is one of the few to actually seek the killer out. She doesn't wait for the killer to come to them and then fight them. She sets a trap for the killer and defeats them on their own territory, and I really like that. Kind of, it's a bit of it doesn't entirely work in terms of logic and rationale for the universe, but what she does is she draws him out of the dream world into reality where he can be harmed, and she realizes that he has no kind of power over her within the dream world without her giving him that power. She has to believe that she'll die in her dream for her to die in real life type thing. So yeah, no, really great. The ending, it doesn't really work with that premise, but that's a whole other video. She also manages to come back in Nightmare on Elm Street 3. She skipped 2, went to 3, and she is now a counsellor for the teenagers that are now being attacked by Freddy Krueger. And she is a perfect example of somebody who takes a traumatic incident, something that's awful that's happened to them, and instead of letting it break them and turn them into an addict or some suffering for the rest of their lives, they take it and use it and turn it into strength and want to be a better person and make the world a better place. So she becomes a counsellor for youths, having known what it was like to go through the trauma of seeing friends killed, of being attacked herself. She doesn't make it through 3, unfortunately, but she's still pretty badass, and we have to give her extra points for that particular feat of strength, not only in 1 but in 3. And then finally, guys, this is going to be no surprise. Number 1, Ellen Ripley from the Alien movie. Now, oh, I love the Alien movies. I watched that way too young, and it scared the absolute crap out of me, but in a brilliant way. Not a huge fan of the newer ones. They're okay. They're not bad, but they ain't got nothing on Alien and Alien 2, which is just amazing. 3, 4, yeah. Prequels are up there with 3 and 4 is what I'm gonna do. But anyway, 1 and 2 are friggin' amazing, and Ellen proves herself to be the most badass of all final girls. She just kicks butt in movies. She uses the technology, she uses what's lying around her, she fights this alien on its own turf, and she wins. Awesome lady. She manages to save her own cat. I mean, I love her. So yeah, guys, that is my final girls top 10. What do you think? Do you agree with my particular choices, with the order that I put the choices in? Let me know in the comments down below. Who's your favorite final girl? I'd love to find out. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel. It would mean the world to me. Hit the bell button so you get notification every time I post new content. Give the video a like, leave me a comment, do all that wonderful jazz so we can connect. And that's me for now. I'm your favorite final girl, and I'll be back for another video soon. Bye.
This is Ripley, last survivor of the Nostromo. Signing off.